Hey guys, my name is the Mike James and welcome to my Minecraft hardcore world, where for almost 2,000 days we've been building a Dwarven fantasy realm. So if you're a fan of fantasy builds or you really just want to follow along with the journey of building a mega city, then I would massively appreciate it if you would consider hitting that subscribe button, because it's free. However, let's go ahead and roll the video. Kickstarting this week off, I'm going to use this free shulker whilst we've got it and fill it up with golden carrots. So we're going to take all the baked pataties we can carry, and heading into our new food hall, we can go ahead and start trading up for golden carrots. Then we can rinse and repeat. Then we can finally buy the carrots. Well, admittedly, that did take a bit longer than I was anticipating, but we've finally got a few stacks of golden carrots, which should last us a while. Then I've head outside the mountain real quickly, and I've already found exactly what I'm looking for, which is a little dandelion. The last dandelion of the season. Because I am a sucker for color coding my shulkers. There we are. We now have our food shulker on the go, so that's finally that done, you know, just after 2,000 days, but hey ho. Jumping back inside, this is where I really want to go ahead and jog your guys' memory and take you back. This project is supposed to be a shadow effect, which, as you can tell by the space that we need to fill, is gonna require several double chests full worth of glowstone and black glass. So it's a project which I've been putting off and off and off, and this week I'm definitely not going to be able to get it done, but I'm certainly going to make some progress towards finishing it, hopefully before we hit 2,000 days. Whether or not that's doable probably isn't, but we'll give it a try. And the question I'm asking myself is whether or not I actually kept my fishing farm operational. Oh yes, that's exactly what we're looking for, because we're gonna go ahead and make some water breathing potions. I also don't think it would hurt to just grab a few buckets of milk as an emergency, because if you haven't clicked on already, we are indeed going to try and raid a few monuments to see if we can try and get ourselves a couple of bits of sponge. As some of you may remember, we do indeed have a monument right near our base, so this is going to be the first stop, and hopefully we don't die. Ooh. Just got to remember that I am not invincible in this game. And there's our first bit of sponge. Very nice. I should have 100% brought TNT on this mission, and fully regretting the fact that I didn't. There's the second one down. There's the third. Now the real question is, where is the sponge room? I actually have no idea. I am aware that it doesn't spawn in every single place, but I'm hoping it spawns in this one, because I would really not like to go through this again if it's at all possible. Oh, gold. This is a very, very welcome surprise. Oh, we definitely need this gold. Oh, I found it. I found it. I was literally just about to record saying, oh yeah, I don't think there is a sponge room in here, so I'm going to bail. And then I literally found it. I honestly was just about to leave. Oh my god. Right, so it was like, oh boy. Oh, that was close. Oh! Oh well, I think I'm far enough away now. Oh, that was a close call. A nice little haul of 23 sponges, which will do great for us moving into our first build of this episode. And so we jump outside, run into a bit of an issue here, as I am going to go ahead and build a squid farm, which is what this has been leading up to, so we can farm the black ink. However, I really wanted to build it inside our Dwarven Mountain. However, it's just not viable, as you need a river biome, and unfortunately, it looks like we're going to have to clear all of this water out, so it's a good job we got the sponges. But let's go ahead and get to work. Where unfortunately the replay mod got corrupted, so we don't have the first segment of me placing down the glass, so we're going to jump forward to that being done. Many apologies. Well, that was a task and a half. I'm not going to lie, it took me well over an hour and a half just to get all of this cleared, but it is now done, and as per normal dwarves, I am just clearly not very good with a sponge. Then we jump into the nether, where we can start gathering the resources to be able to build the squid farm. We're going to need a little bit of wood. Not to mention that we also need to get rid of all of this anyway, because we're digging all of this down to ground level so that we can make the mountains stand out in the backdrop. Then getting to work crafting a little bit of a workstation, we can go ahead and jump straight back into the time lapse of finishing up the actual farm. Theoretically, we should have pretty much 0, yep, but it's to be completely expected because we haven't actually gone ahead and spawn-proofed the entire area around the farm, meaning that no squids are realistically going to spawn within this water. So what we actually have to do is completely fill in this river. So you'll see from 80 blocks in each direction, I have made a marker where we need to fill into. So, of course, this is going to take so many hours because of how deep the river is. Plus, on top of this, we also need to continue transforming this entire area. As you guys may or may not know, the goal is to dig up all of this area where you can see we've already started, and then we're actually going to build out the base of the mountain to sort of stretch out down into where this body of water is. So we've got a lot of transformation to do. Again, not something we're going to be able to do in this episode. And so with such a big task ahead of me of clearing out a body of water, I began procrastinating by live streaming the process of removing some trees and continuing to terraform the land. Well, this has only solidified just how much we're actually going to need beacons if we're going to get this transformed. Because not only do we have to strip all of this back, we also have to terraform all of this. So it's just not something that's going to be feasible without more beacons, as it just takes way too long. But I digress, so we jump back to the squid farm as we need to collect some sand to help us section off the water into 5-block segments, which will make clearing it much easier. So as we come to finishing up gathering some sand, I am going to say that these days are just not lasting long enough, and I am drawing ever closer to that 2,000 day mark in this world, so we've really got to get a move on. And the purpose of this sand is so that rather than swimming down and placing the dirt manually like we've done for all of these blocks, we can literally just go along and just hold down right click and just let the gravity do its job for us. Okay, we are 100% going to have to change up our strategy right now because, as you can see right here, we've built a wall of sand, and this has taken over almost an entire inventory of sand just to fill this one wall, and we were trying to make 5-block wide channels all the way across here to make using the sponges just that more efficient, and we still have all of these to go, which means it's probably going to take about another 8 or 9 inventories worth of sand. And something I really wanted to stress is that I am trying to do all of this before hitting 2,000 days in my hardcore world, in which I was vastly approaching at this point, so I was trying desperately to find something that would make this process way quicker. So what I thought would speed this process up was building a water removal machine, which meant that we needed honey blocks and slime blocks, so I began by getting some bees that I could take into the nether and begin to build a honey farm, which, to be fair, is something that I've wanted to build in my hardcore world for a while, but unfortunately what I failed to foresee is that this would end up taking me tens of Minecraft days in order to achieve getting the materials to build said machine, in which point it was looking very unlikely that we were going to be able to get this done by the 2,000 day mark. So jumping right into building the machine, I wanted to give Abfielder a big shout out for the design that I used in this video. It was a pretty simple design, however, it's fair to say that in learning the process of building this, I did indeed have a few misfires. Well, this achievement that we've just got certainly seems to describe the situation right now, as we have actually got a bit of a sticky situation going on, as not only did the machine fail, OBS is now failing on me, which is the software that I use to record these videos, as it's now starting to pause and stop recordings after a few seconds, so it looks like we're in for a rough couple of hours. Third time's the charm, and I'm still not confident that this is going to work. Basically, the problem was these blocks here both need to be slime, they can't be honey blocks, which I think I already knew anyway from the TMT Drooper days. We've got it working, so now we can go ahead and basically drain all this out, and then we are going to need the sponge. to basically just go along and do this level here. We'll probably have to use the sponges to clear out the rest just because it's a bit awkward and it saves me digging it all out. But at least we've got a basic machine running and the science behind it is all there. And now that we had a full understanding of how this machine worked, we could actually get to work in removing the lanes of water that needed to be removed. But that opened up a new can, because I don't like to get overly dramatic on this channel, nor do I like to really bring down the mood, as I am quite generally a positive person. But when I say that beginning this was taking on one of the most arduous journeys I had ever actually undertaken in this hardcore world, would have been a huge understatement. I several times almost faced complete burnout and almost even hit complete refusal to open up this world. Imagine putting yourself in my shoes. You're going to work every day and you're coming home. The last thing you want to do is really log on to a world where you know that you have to do the same task of tearing down a machine and building it back up several times. And that indeed was the case. And it went on for several days. In fact, it ended up taking me almost 9 days of just constant rebuilding this machine in order to remove all of the water. Oh, you have no idea just how good it feels to know that it is now finally behind us, that we've now got all of the water cleared out and we can now just focus on the terraforming and building in this world, as it is indeed one of my favorite things to do ever. So I'm pretty giddy at the thought of I can now get on with this. Oh, and I just wanted to say, please don't worry about this body of water here. I checked this and I believe that this is a forest biome section of water and not a river biome, so we shouldn't really have any issues with squids in here. But even if we do, I'm just not about clearing water at this point anymore. I'm so over it. So quickly starting with gathering some dirt and grass. Place down some temporary storage because we're going to need a bunch of it for the project that I've got planned. Where you guys might remember that we did farm some moss in a previous episode, so we can grab some of you. Followed by gathering of some cobble. Followed up by also gathering some stone. Where we've gone ahead and collected a bunch of materials, but I already know that I'm probably vastly underestimating the amount that I need, but we're gonna go ahead and craft some coarse dirt. And to avoid having to remove any more water from this world, as it would drive me insane, I decided I was going to take some heavy inspiration from the Lord of the Rings lore and utilize the Dwarven pool of Mirrormere in my world. This is essentially a very sacred pool to the dwarves, so although it's not important to get it completed in this particular video, we will go ahead and just lay out the foundations for this pool. It's not the perfect shape, but it's kind of the shape that we were going for, so it'll do for now. Okay, moving on to the next segment. We need to have a blank slate for building our project on, so I'm going to go ahead and cover all of this in a single layer of grass block. So we got to work building the platform where the dwarves would have come to pay their respects and to visit the shrine and to just have a pit stop when they've travelled for a long time before getting back into the city. Then add in a circle outline to the outside because I thought it would be a really cool touch to make it seem as if the dwarves weren't actually building on the original obelisk that was made, but rather building around it. In this point of the lore, this monument has been standing for 1,000 years, and I'm trying to find the right balance between making it feel like the weather has aged it, but still make it feel like it's still quite new and grandeur, and that the dwarves are still trying to keep on top of maintaining it and keeping this monument clean, as this monument stands as a testament to the original dwarf who built this kingdom. And that's the first segment done, and it's looking pretty good. Now, each side is not going to be the same. The whole point here is to try and make it seem a little bit different on each corner to just add a little bit of extra layer to the aged effect of all of this. Next, I've moved on to building the stone that the obelisk is going to sit on, as this needs to be sat kind of in the center, so I'm kind of just using a blend of stone and mossy cobblestone to kind of showcase this really aged rock. I'm not trying to do anything special here, and it'll probably need a little bit more texturing with some slabs and some other things later on in the future, but for now, it's just about getting it done. Truth be told, I really wanted this obelisk to be about 4 times the size of this, so it's not exactly the grandiose thing that I had in mind, but it does have mithril at the top, so I suppose it's a good trade-off. I'm now also just redirecting the course dirt a little bit because I felt like the dwarves wouldn't actually build on this sacred body of water, they would build next to it. Obviously, this monument was built quite a long time ago, so I am actually going to have some stairs kind of going down into the water that the original dwarves may have built. But since the other dwarves have now decided that it's too sacred and they haven't used it, so this stairway will have fallen into sort of disrepair, and this way it's just next to the body of water rather than being on top of it. I've just realized we haven't actually checked the war. That's quite a fair bit of ink considering we haven't actually been AFKing at the optimum spot. This has just kind of been running whilst we've been building. That's pretty cool. That's exactly what we wanted. And the reason for that is I am just not a big fan of AFKing in hardcore in general. I prefer to actually just build things that function passively as you play in the game and making progress on your world. However, that being said, as this is a AFK design initially, I am going to actually give a quick AFK test just to see how well this actually functions. Well, jumping to the obelisk build, I finished off the floors and decided to try experimenting with each one to see which type of style I like best, and then I'll go back round and replace the floors a little bit later on, or maybe I won't, who knows. Well, the monument's done to an extent, but the next thing we have to look at moving on to is the actual squid farm, which is the purpose of this video. As right now, the squid farm is completely uncovered and we're in a vast area of flat land which does not look natural in the slightest. So we've got some terraforming to do and I've got a bit of an idea how I'm going to cover up this squid farm, but I'm making it up as I go along as usual, so just bear with me. So the first part of this terraforming project, I wanted to bring the foot of the mountain all the way out to this build and slowly have a gradual incline right up to the mountain in the background, so that's exactly what I did. I also went ahead and added a rocky outcrop to the build as well, just to try and help insinuate a bit of history to the area where a stone bridge maybe once stood. Before moving on to the actual squid farm itself, where I decided I was just going to build a hill that will place a dwarven watchtower on the top of, and in terms of shading, I didn't actually use deep slate like many people would to kind of add a sense of dark to light shading to help accentuate the shadows, and although it would have made the build feel a little bit bigger by adding in some artificial shadows, I really feel like this area I kind of want to keep just stony and rocky and really messy and just bring it into the dwarven vibe rather than going for the hyper realism look. Then we'll go ahead and finish placing down the stairs on this little dwarven walkway we've got going on. Then gonna grab coarse dirt, because in my efforts to try and make this area feel a little bit more older and ancient for the kingdom, I want this to be kind of like a dried up riverbed, but I want to go ahead and add in a little bit of coarse dirt just to make the area look a bit weathered and a bit marshy and not look so plain and green. So let's go ahead and get some of this in. Then we'll add a little bit around the grassy areas just to kind of make the rocks feel a little bit more natural. Then I want to add a bit more life to the area by trying to create these like rocky outcrop things to make it look as if there's like little boulders and things around there and just help bring a little bit more life to the area. Then the next thing I want to go ahead and do is connect that bridge that we built over to this part. So we just need to go ahead and build a 4-block wide bridge over to this land here. Then I want to go ahead and blend the bridge into the cobble to just kind of make it feel as if it was all kind of the same. So I was going to build a stairway up to the monument, but I think that the bridge provides more of a defensive strategy into obtaining access to the monument, and that way it's a little bit more monitored and a little bit easier for the dwarves to defend. But I got a bit carried away and kind of forgot to record, but we went ahead and added in a little bit more life to the edge. Then I got to work designing a very small Dwarven watchtower. The point of this watchtower is to just be a one guard post where they can look out and overlook the obelisk, and for any oncoming intruders, this wouldn't be heavily populated, so I didn't want to do anything too fancy. Then just using the trapdoors to cover up any of the holes and just add a little bit more decor to the area just to add a bit of colour, because I know that I am not particularly one for adding a lot of colour to my builds at the moment, but I promise I am working on changing that. And that's looking a lot better with a little bit of extra on top. It definitely makes it feel a little bit more imposing. Realistically, I think I probably should have built this a little bit taller and much wider to get a lot more detail and a lot more depth out of this build, but unfortunately it's done for now, so that might have to be something we come back and revisit again in the future. But the honest real truth is there's a lot more life that needs putting into this place, a lot more terraforming, and like everything in this world, it's just one of those projects where I've opened a can of worms and it's actually probably going to take me several weeks to complete this area alone. Not to mention the fact that this mountain range is going to consist of about 20 different mountains all dotted around here, and we haven't even got one complete yet. But as the sun rises on day 2077 in our hardcore world, we can now finally begin to make progress towards this project, which we began over a year ago. But I'll be brutally honest, it's very easy to get caught up inside your own head with series like this, where you start feeling like you could probably do way more than what you are currently doing. However, we've been on an insane journey and I've loved every second of it, and I can't thank you all enough for following me, not only through 2,000 days in this hardcore world, but 12,000 of you have thought that this is good enough to click that subscribe button and follow along, so thank you so much. But for now, I've been the Mike James, aka it's me, Mickey T, so make sure you tune in next time to see what else we get up to in our Dwarven fantasy world, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye!